I'm sure our next guest, Trey Wallace from Outkick, is enjoying a beautiful, absolutely gorgeous South Florida day to make us all jealous.
Oh, I bet it's so nice down there.
I bet you it's like 78 degrees, sunny. He's probably right now South Beach.
Get you a nice little
around.
cup of coffee, maybe espresso to get your day started.
I think him and Coach Orgeron are working out on South Beach right now, enjoying talking SEC football.
Pull-ups? You think pull-ups right now?
I think so.
That's where they are in the set?
Yeah. Orgeron signing autographs. Yeah.
In the circuit. I think that's what they call it, in the circuit.
Yeah.
That kind of pull-up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what are you thinking, like the Huggies?
Yeah.
Pull-ups?
All right, let's find out how close we were to our prediction with Trey Wallace from Outkick. Did we nail it, Trey? Did we?
No, boys. I mean, y'all are just off. I'm out here in sweatpants and a sweatshirt.
Are you wearing rollerblades?
No, not yet. I was thinking about it. I'd have to throw on my Barbie outfit,
Just do it.
At least my Ken outfit, so I can make it work. I mean, look, the views are nice. I mean, it's Miami. I'm overlooking, it's like downtown Nashville. It's just condo after condo. But it is what it is, man. Like I'm not going to sit here and complain, and all you listeners out there are going to tag me on social media. But I will say it is it's about 60 degrees down here, and windy. So not going to the beach today with my thong on. Yeah, we're good.
All right, so let's start before we start talking about the national championship game that you will be covering and watching in person on Monday night. This transfer portal,
yeah.
It's even more crazy this year. We're seeing some reports early on, a couple minutes ago, that maybe Mensah out of Duke, there might be some concern that he could go in the portal. We know Tennessee offered a lot of money to Ty Simpson. Ty said no. Miami offered him a bunch of money. Are we seeing maybe the results of Tennessee and Miami trying to coax some guys to go in the transfer portal?
I think what you're seeing right now is this last-minute dash to 11:59 tonight, and trying to figure out what's legal and what's not legal, and what buyouts are out there. What can we get out of? What can we afford? I mean, you look at even Darian Mensah. It's like that's a conversation I've been hearing for a couple of days now, and that all kind of centered around, okay, well, who would own his NIL rights moving forward? Would it be Duke? Would it be the next team? What kind of buyout would a school have to pay to get him away from Duke? These are all factors right now. And, I'm seeing and hearing the same thing out of Baton Rouge. Lane Kiffin has made it his priority to screw over Ole Miss as much as possible over the last few days, and especially leading up to midnight this evening, and take as many players as they can. Or if I don't take your players, I'm sure as heck going to make you pay for them even more. And so there is some weird things going on. And it's what I expected out of the transfer portal. I think with the quarterback market, where it's at right now, I think at the same time, you look at teams just trying to add pieces, and, this has just been chaotic. None of this has leveled off, guys. Like I wrote about earlier in the week, like the prices for these players have not gone down. If anything, they've gone up over the last few years. So I think that's the other thing to me that stands out of where we're at with we've got at least 10 hours left until the portal closes.
How is what reportedly Lane Kiffin is doing behind the scenes? How is that playing out behind the scenes? Because you talk to a lot of folks around college football and especially coaching staffs in the SEC.
Yeah, they're agitated, probably is the right way to put it, and the right way for radio. It's not a pretty situation for how he's doing it. Like, and I talked to some folks in Baton Rouge. I talked to some folks at Ole Miss and in the agency world. He's really driving up the price for Ole Miss players. And he's not worried about if some of these guys had already signed contracts as well, which is the interesting part of this because, what are these schools going to do? Like, I know the Damon Williams thing happened, but if you pay the buyout, essentially you can get out of it. And that's why all these collectives are putting in these buyouts now when it comes to NIL. Look, I with the way how they ended with Ole Miss and LSU, I didn't see it going any other direction like it is now, where he's going to make it his mission to try to mess with them as much as possible. And at the same time, they're not going to dry him up, but they're going to make the Ole Miss Collective, the Grove Collective, spend a lot of money to retain some of these players. And to me, that's just the fascinating part of it. I give Kiffin a lot of credit for what he's done in the portal so far. He did take a risk with Sam Levitt. We'll see what he does with an injury. But right now, the back and forth between Ole Miss and LSU, guys, you thought his exit before the playoff was bad. I would say wait till tomorrow morning and see the outcome of how things have played out over the next 11 hours. Ole Miss fans are going to lose their ever-living mind against this guy.
I got a feeling that first SEC game, hopefully it's a night game at Vaught Hemingway when Ole Miss hosts Lane Kiffin and LSU in 2026, the governor's probably going to have to call the National Guard out because that is going to be a mess.
Dude, they're going to need Secret Service agents. They're going to need the National Guard. If College Game Day should have already had that one lined up. If I could put my media credential in right now, I would do it for that one. It's going to be an absolute scene, and I don't know. Obviously, he's not prepared for it. We got a long way to go till that happens, but we do have spring meetings that are going to pop up. That's going to be an interesting dynamic in Destin this year. Media days. I mean, I'm just saying, like, the storylines are going to write themselves over the next 7 months. And I think what we have seen really over the last few weeks out of the transfer portal is just going to lead to even more chaos. And he has to do it his way. And his way is to agitate. And that's not even the word I would really use, as many people as possible on the way out the door. And now his mission is to make their life a living hell. And congratulations, he's doing it.
Now that we have the one portal window, maybe it's too early to get returns. But what has been the response from some of these programs? Because it has changed a little bit. Some of the bigger name guys, we didn't seem like we saw as many of those at the beginning of the portal, Trey. And now we're seeing some of those guys. They've just kind of leaked out as the portal has gone along. But when you look at the overall portal needs certain teams, who has swung and missed on a lot of guys that their fan base maybe should be really concerned about heading into next season?
I mean, there's one team in the SEC that just cannot land a quarterback, and that's Tennessee. I think you're starting to see a fan base get a little bit agitated with Josh Heupel and the amount of money. And here's something else that stood out to me. Danny White came out Friday, on Thursday, sorry, getting days running into each other, but on Thursday, and essentially said, other schools are cheating. We're not going to do that. We're going to handle things the right way when it comes to NIL. And my immediate thought was, brother, you don't throw stones in a glass house. Because I can promise you, you don't think Tennessee's tampering or, offering crazy contracts and whatnot. How do you think Ty Simpson ended up with an offer from Tennessee if he decided to enter the portal? Like, I'm just saying, so, there are a number of schools around the country that I think could have, like you look at Texas, like Texas fans have to be satisfied with what they have seen. But then, you can take a look, okay, what's Miami about to do at the quarterback position? Well, it might be playing out in real time, and it might be happening in Durham, North Carolina right now with Darian Mensah. So I think that, what you've also seen is the market being so expensive right now. It's giving teams the opportunity to put out to their fan base, hey, look, we need more money down the road to be able to afford this type of stuff. And, and like even Alabama's swung and missed on a few, but I think where we're at right now, even though there might be 3,600 players into the portal at the Division I, level, and 75% of them are not good enough to go start for a national championship contending type team. And I would consider Alabama like that if we're just talking yearly and year out. I think that the biggest winner, if I just had to look at it, there's so many teams that have added, but I think Oregon retaining Dante Moore was absolutely massive. And then at the same time, you give Dylan Raiola an opportunity to sit back, learn for a year, get better off your injury, and then maybe you're set at quarterback in 2027. Like, I give Oregon a lot of credit for what they've done, and I think I could probably say the same thing about Indiana and a few others. So this is I'm glad we only have one portal period. Makes life a lot easier, but what we've seen is just a mad dash to the finish.
All right, Trey, let's talk about that Indiana team. We were thoroughly impressed what we saw them do firsthand against the Alabama Crimson Tide, and it just has not let up, especially what they did to Oregon. in their last college football playoff game. The keys to the game: can Miami slow this Mendoza offense up enough to where this could be a game in the fourth quarter?
I think that's the biggest concern right now, as I know that Miami front seven is ferocious, and they are really, really good. My biggest thing is Fernando Mendoza is just a silent assassin. He can hit your dump down 5 yards. He can hit your 15-yard slant. They can offset it by running the football. Like I sat there and watched Indiana. They beat Alabama, and then they come back and what they did to Oregon last week, guys. I never thought that game would be over in the second quarter, but it was over in the second quarter. And so I look at how Miami's done it. And look, when you go to the state of Texas twice in 12 days, you beat A&M, you beat Ohio State, you follow that up with a win against Ole Miss, and especially the way they do it. Here's the biggest factor it comes down to. We can talk about defense all day long. I trust Fernando Mendoza over Carson Beck. And in tough situations, I think that's what it comes down to. And what we have seen out of the Indiana offense compared to the Miami offense, which can be stagnant at times, it comes down to the quarterback position. Is this moment too big for Fernando Mendoza? I don't think so. Because, again, that kid just has a level brain, man. Nothing seems to bother him. I can't say the same thing about Carson Beck. So that's what I'm fascinated to see what happens on Monday night.
If Indiana does what most of us expect them to do and they claim the title and the turnaround of that program, remarkable. What are we saying about Curt Cignetti 10 seasons from now? I don't want to get out ahead of my skis, but
I know. Yeah. To be honest with you, probably the start of a new college football revolution. Meaning he was the godfather of turning a program around in 2 years type of deal. Being able to contend on a consistent basis when you were in the gutters. I mean, guys, Indiana was in the gutter. And what this does is it agitates other coaches out there because they're like, wait a minute, we need 4 to 5 years to turn this thing around. And Indiana's like, nope, we're going to get this thing going in 2 years and you're going to have to follow us. And look, he's got 9 starters that came with him from James Madison. Like, you can't forget that part. Like, we talk about the portal all the time and the contracts and everything. Man, there's a lot of loyalty to Curt Cignetti, and it's how he's been able to do it. Like, I hate to make comparisons. I really do. I don't think Curt Cignetti has earned it when it comes to titles and all that. I think it's obvious, but man, he just reminds me of Nick Saban. He does. His attitude, the way he handles himself with the media, laughing every now and then, how he attacks his roster. If we're sitting here in 6-7 years and the playoff format's about to change again. We got some big meetings here on Sunday regarding that. But if Curt Cignetti's got himself 2 titles in this era, my goodness, he'd probably go down as one of the best to do it. So that's why I think Monday night is so intriguing to me. Can he finish the story? And if he can, Curt Cignetti's got to be put up there. And I think the team overall, and I get we are in different eras, guys, but the first team that comes to mind is the 2019 LSU squad.
Yeah.
With Joe Burrow. And also, can we make that comparison? Sure, we can all day long. Would it hold up? I don't know. 2 different types of teams, but the way that they're doing it, I could say the same thing about Alabama during the COVID year. You know what I mean? So it's like, where do we draw the line? But I will say this. Indiana was at the bottom of the Big Ten, guys, 2.5 years ago. And look at where they're at now. They're playing for a national championship against Miami in Miami. I don't think you can write a better script, and they got themselves a hell of a quarterback leading the way and a head coach.
Let me ask you an interesting point of view of this game. The national championship game is being played in Miami's home stadium. I know it seats about 65, 67,000 if the fire marshal's looking the other way, but I'm curious, how do you think the fan breakdown will be in this game in regards to the percentage?
I mean, judging off so I have some really good sources inside the ticket office, secondary ticket office at different places, and the amount of tickets being bought from the state of Indiana is fascinating to me. About 30%, state of Illinois, about 15%. I think we know what that means. Yeah. And don't forget about the big alumni base that Indiana has in the state of Florida. So I hate to be that guy, but I'm going to say 70-30 Indiana. Like, I honestly think that there are going to be a lot of Indiana fans. Look, I've never seen it. I've covered this sport now for 16 years. I've never seen a takeover like that in a championship game, a playoff game, or whatever. Even some road games, guys. Like, they took Atlanta over. There are probably 60,000 Indiana fans in that Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And I promise you, at least 3/4 of them are heading south to Miami. And, the best way to put it is, they've had a number of years to be able to save up for this type of situation.
No question.
So
yeah.
why not go enjoy it? So I think it's going to be, yes, Miami's going to be represented, 20, 25,000 fans. I don't really think it matters that this game is being played in Miami because 20,000 of those other tickets are going to corporate sponsors. That's why you're seeing the market kind of where it's at. It's Indiana, but it's also, it's being flooded by the corporate sponsorships that are driving up the price. And if you don't think the college football playoff is getting a kickback on some of these prices that are out there and some of these ticket sales, I got oceanfront property in Kentucky I'd love to sell you.
It's crazy. Looking back at Indiana, you talk about them in 2021, Michael Penix, now it was an injury-riddled season, but they were 2-10 with Michael Penix as their quarterback. Yeah.
Think about that. Think about the other players that were involved in that. It is fascinating to me to just look at the turnaround, just straight up look at it and look at the roster and look at the fact that Michael Penix was on that squad, and I can name some few others. And then you go back and you look at last year and where they were at, and sure, they hit a downfall, in 1 or 2 games, and everybody, even Kurt Signay talked about it last week. Players got agitated because the narrative was they were a fluke. This is no fluke. This is a really, really good football team with experienced players. And at the same time, you don't see this often, guys. I mean, maybe the best way to compare it would be like Vanderbilt, in the SEC. Look at them and where they were a couple of years ago. And then they put up, 10, 11-win season this past year. And maybe you can make that correlation, but they're not playing for a national championship. They didn't make the playoffs. So just an amazing job to turn it around. And if you think it's all NIL, it's not. I know folks just immediately want to say, well, it's the portal and it's NIL. Guys, it's not. There are starters on that team making $300,000 this year that are in the starting 11 on offense. Like, they're not. This is not a squad that's out there with a massive, massive bankroll. Now, that'll change after this season, but I'm just saying that excuse alone does not fly with me with the Indiana Hoosiers.
Have you had a Cuban sandwich yet?
No, I'm going to get one this evening, this afternoon. I'm trying to work on my figure, as you guys have seen over the last couple of years.
You look great.
I promise you, brother. I appreciate that. But there's going to be some Cuban sandwiches eaten, some seafood. I'm going to enjoy it while we're down here. The corporate bill will come in, in a couple of weeks, and I'll have to deal with it then. But I'm okay now.
Go to one of those crazy. I would go just to people watch for a second. One of those crazy, trendy nightclubs there in Miami. That's what you ought to do,
dude. I mean, let me tell you something. If I
go to the Clevelander, right? You're going to go there.
Right, exactly. Huh? Yeah, without getting in trouble. If I can chug a super coffee at 10 o'clock and make it to 11:30, I will test that theory out for you guys. But I'm just trying to save up my energy because I know, and you guys know this, I ain't leaving that stadium, that Hard Rock, till probably 4 a.m. Monday morning after all that stuff. So I promise you, I'll hit up a club or two and might make it to the first bottle service, and I'll send you pictures.
The nightclub vibes. I'm thinking you've got different dancers and cages that are surrounded throughout the place. You've got bubbles that blow out every now and then, and there's glow sticks involved.
Dude, if that happens and there are some kind of pictures on social media, I'm going to catch a beating when I get home to the missus. So that will be interesting to say the least. But maybe I can pull off a foam party while I'm down here.
Tell her it's for show research.
I know, it's so right. I can write about it. We can talk about it. And, Trey Wallace attends something that looked like Club La Vida back in 2004.
If you think the college football transfer portal is crazy, come with me.
Let me tell you something about Miami.
Yeah, we experienced nightlife in Miami.
Oh, boy.
Well, Trey,
I'm gonna work on it, guys.
Trey, we appreciate it, my friend. Thank you so much for all you do for us throughout the college football season and beyond. Have a great time, and we will talk to you very, very soon.
Guys, it's been a blessing. This has been so much fun this season. Look forward to capping it off next week as we recap everything. But man, it's been great. You guys have been awesome. Thanks for having me, and hope you'll have a wonderful weekend.
You as well, brother. Thank you very much. Be careful. That is the one and the only Trey Wallace, awesome at what he does, Fox and Outkick. Joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. You deserve solutions that are built for you. Higginbotham is your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR services.
You know, the New Year sales event is happening right now at Courtesy GMC in Trussville, right off of I-459 exit 32. It's a big deal of savings, and I mean real big. $15,000 off MSRP on Sierra trucks and stock. I'm talking AT4s, Denali's, SLTs, whatever you're looking for. It's on the lot. It's ready to roll. Plenty to choose from. If you prefer an SUV, Courtesy GMC, they got plenty of options there too. Huge savings on brand new Yukons, Terrains, and Acadias. Plus, every GMC comes with a back 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty. Gives you the confidence mile after mile. You can shop the massive selection today in person. Go by there this weekend. You're not going to miss any of the basketball games on television. They got TVs galore in the showroom. You can go to courtesybirmingham.com. Check out more of their incredible savings. Go by and see Josh Gargis, Drew Lally, Richard Gullidge, Robert Duramus, Tommy Rowan, the award-winning staff there at Courtesy GMC. Right off of I-459 exit 32 in Trussville.
Well, Lane Kiffin has stolen another player. We'll tell you who it is next. 1225, three-man front. Great visit as always with Trey Wallace of Fox and Outkick. You can find it there at Jocks FM Podcast. Three-man front, updating you on the latest out of the college football transfer portal. Just joining us, it closes tonight, 11:59. Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin busy at work, and it seems they're busy LSU and Lane Kiffin busy messing with Ole Miss, because they have landed Devin Harper, a young reserve offensive lineman, but he is committed to LSU. And the scuttlebutt now is that Lane Kiffin reportedly paying players from his own roster to enter the portal, I guess to make room, also driving up the price for Ole Miss players, doing whatever he can, paraphrasing what our buddy Trey Wallace just told us. Do whatever he can, Conrad, to screw Ole Miss. The team, am I remembering this correct? Did Ole Miss screw Lane Kiffin?
No, they did not.
Okay, I didn't know if I didn't remember the story the way it played out.
Well,
right.
and I think if you heard one thing from Trey to kind of get the big picture, it was, as frustrated as Ole Miss fans were when he left to take the LSU job, they could potentially be 10 times more ticked off at him tomorrow morning based on what transpires between, I guess now over the next 12 hours or so. But this is wild, man. I mean, if some of the reports are true of leaking certain information to certain players to tick them off and force them to want to leave Ole Miss, I guess you got to play dirty in some ways nowadays, but that's pretty dirty.
Well, in Lane's mind, he was done dirty by Ole Miss because he was not given the opportunity
to coach in the playoff.
To coach in the playoff and to have a walking advertisement for LSU football every single time Ole Miss took the field.
Correct.
Because that would have been the dominant conversation, because it was also a dominant part of the conversation even when he was not in the stadium. That was always a sidebar story. So, yeah, in his mind, Ole Miss and Kevin Carter, they screwed him.
Just like he probably felt like Nick Saban screwed him in 2016 when he got let go before the national championship game.
And so he is going to do everything in his power, and he has got a group of people in the state of Louisiana that they are all about getting their hands dirty and doing whatever is necessary to get LSU back into relevance, because they have not been relevant in some time in college football.
Just think about where we are, with all the money that's being exchanged, but now we're talking about people getting paid money just to go on a visit.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about that with Cam Coleman, reportedly $50,000 just to get him on campus to talk to him. Now we've got reports that head coaches are offering players money to leave their roster so they can open up a spot for somebody else. Like paying kids to literally leave. Basically a buyout, like you would if you fired a coach.
An embarrassment of riches.
Yeah.
And something
crazy.
A lot of us don't have at our disposal. That's what I want to tell you about our friends at Noto Roofing. It's great Alabama, Birmingham, Metro Alabama-based companies. Owners Sammy and Matt. I knew Matt when he was playing football at Spain Park way back when, but they're great guys. They come from a great family. They certainly understand the market. They understand you, the homeowner. They've got professionals like Chris, who's been in the roofing industry for over 25 years. He's going to come to your house, very honest and open about what they find. In fact, Chris is going to come to my house next week. He's going to walk my roof and look at any potential issues. And this is not just shingles. This is your gutter system functioning properly? Is the flashing around your chimney operating and being efficient and doing what it's supposed to do? Because if they put a brand new roof on and the rest of your roof is not working, then guess what? That's not good for them. This is a detail-minded company that cares about referrals, word of mouth. That's how they built their business on great reputation. Ventilation inspections, all of that's going to be included. They offer the free inspections to all Jocks listeners, and they offer financing if you need help with the payments. NotoRoofing.com. Owners Sammy and Matt, check them out. Be glad you did. At least get the free inspection. Make sure you're good to go. NOTO Roofing.com. That's NotoRoofing.com. Always tell them Landrum from Jocks sent you.
All right, we're going to head back to Miami momentarily. Talk to John Talty from CBS Sports. He is on the ground just like Trey was, covering the national championship game. We'll get his thoughts on the big game Monday night next. We will head back to South Florida, talk to John Talty joining us momentarily. I want to remind everybody, if you've got a dangerous tree leaning over your house or maybe branches blocking your view, you need to call Golston Tree Service today at 205-337-4443. Golston's licensed pros handle everything from trimming and pruning to full tree removals, fast, safe, and affordable. Don't wait until the next storm causes damage. You need to call Golston Tree Service at 205-337-4443. Golston also offers that 24-hour emergency tree service. So when it comes to your trees, don't risk it. Call Golston Tree Service. Joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline, South Florida, is where John Talty will be the next few days as he gets ready for the national championship game, covers it for CBS Sports. John, I hope you're feeling a little bit better. I know everybody's been under the weather the last week or two.
Yeah, it's tough when you're traveling. It just seems like everybody's getting sick these days. So we're fighting our way to Miami at this point.
Okay, sounds good. But before we talk about the game, I want to talk about some other things that are happening. We had the NCAA convention going on earlier this week. And for those looking for maybe a little bit of life or maybe a life preserver in regards to the chaos that we're experiencing now in the transfer portal and NIL and everything else, I'm not really sure we got it. What did you take, if anything, away from the NCAA convention?
Yeah, it's those things have kind of decreased in importance. I didn't go this year because I ended up getting sick, but I've been to quite a few of them, and you see less and less people at them over the years. But I think what it shows is that the NCAA is just kind of in an impossible position. They have very little power at this point, and yet they still get blamed for seemingly everything that goes wrong. I think it was Greg Sankey's quote to Ross Dellinger complaining about no one enforcing tampering, which is a fair complaint, but also you got to sometimes look inward. Coaches love to complain about tampering, and yet A, they do it themselves, and B, they never turn anybody in, which is a frustration, I think, for a lot of people at the NCAA that would love to go after some of those issues. So there's just a lot kind of that's messy right now, a lot that's kind of in the gray area. I think people would love it to be a bit more black and white than it is right now, but you're just seeing a lot of people coloring outside the lines, and we'll see soon whether they'll be punished for doing that or whether it will just embolden other schools to be even more aggressive going forward and trying to get around that $20.5 million cap and some of the other things they're doing with NIL right now.
Hanging out with John Talty, CBS Sports. He joins us as all of our guests do in the Higginbotham Hotline right now at CBSSports.com. John, you've got a story up on Indiana and that fan base and got to see a glimpse of it there in Atlanta. For some folks in our listening area that are listening to this show, but just how well they're traveling. And Pat asked, I think, earlier in the week, what do you think the attendance will look like as far as the fan base is? And my prediction was that Indiana, just based on that and the excitement with that program, that they would outnumber Miami fans there. You've done a deep dive. What does that look like, and what Curt Cignetti has done in unleashing that crimson wave of Indiana fans?
Yeah, it's crazy. I've been stunned by just how many Indiana fans have been everywhere. I was at the Big Ten Championship, and they certainly outnumbered Ohio State fans at that one. And you kind of get it. All right, it's in Indianapolis, first one they've been to. Rose Bowl, I wasn't there, but from everything I heard, they far and away outnumbered Alabama fans. And certainly with my own two eyes, I saw them outnumber Oregon fans probably at least 4-1 in Atlanta, which was, pretty absurd. So I think what we've learned, one, I don't know that before this Indiana run that I knew that they had the biggest alumni base. I guess in my head, I thought it was Penn State, maybe Michigan. I was kind of surprised to learn that Indiana had such a huge alumni base. And I think with that, this is like a newfound joy. I can remember, first Clemson national championship and how excited Clemson fans were and how excited that program was. Like, there's something uniquely special about that first time. And I think you've seen Alabama, Georgia, some of these other programs where like complacency has set in a little bit. Alabama fans have had ample opportunities to go to national championship type games. They could have gone to a Rose Bowl just a couple of years ago. Indiana fans have never gotten to experience that. So I think that's leading to this kind of overwhelming amount of Indiana fans that you're seeing everywhere. They have money to spend. They're spending it in droves. And In any other scenario, you would think, all right, Miami's getting a home national championship game. You would think that they would be packing out that stadium. But I'm with you. I think it ends up being more Indiana fans than Miami fans right now, because they're going to travel. And I've heard just anecdotally, like a lot of fans they're going to go down there regardless and try to get tickets up until kickoff on Monday.
All right, I got to ask you, in Miami, a day before the national championship, they're going to have a CFP meeting. What are you hearing on that front? Are we doomed for another 12-team playoff in 26? Could there be some movement before January 23rd where we get a 16 or a 24-team playoff for next season?
Well, let me ask you this. Is it doomed if it stays at 12?
I don't think so.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm at with it. And I understand the argument for growth, and I'll get into it in a second. But I think what's kind of funny about this whole situation, and my colleague Brandon Marcello had a great story about this the other day. But we this is still really the first year that we're getting this model of 12, right? We got a year of 12 a year ago, where because of kind of a funky setup with buys and not straight seeding, you had Boise State getting a bye, right? Well, this is the first year we're getting a straight seeding where you don't have to win your conference to get a bye. I think it's worked pretty well. It's been an exciting playoff. I mean, I'm sure people in the SEC would have liked for it to go otherwise, but it's been, I think, a fun run. And I think that we've gotten, Oregon, Ole Miss, Miami, and Indiana in that Final Four, I think was kind of fun for the sport. So if you're the Big Ten, where is the advantage right now to move off 12, which, you have a pretty good chance to win 3 national championships in a row with 3 different programs if Indiana wins on Monday, if you don't ultimately get what you want. And so that's where we're kind of entering this period where, for a while, the Big Ten wanted a 16-team playoff in which there are multiple AQs. They have since moved to preferring a 24-team playoff, which is not particularly popular outside of the Big Ten, but that's kind of where they've moved toward. And so is there a compromise to be had? Is there all right, we'll move to 16 for 2-3 years, and then we'll go to 24. The Big Ten, from people I've talked to over there, they're very aware that they're not going to go from 12 to 24. It's not going to happen this year. That's just not how the college football playoff has moved. It's a gradual thing. It goes, from we had the BCS National Championship, which was 2, then we got to 4, then we got to 12, 16 is probably next, and then their hope is eventually 24. But if you're the SEC, is there value in 24? There's just all these kind of competing interests right now. And as I've said on your show in the past, it ultimately comes down to the Big Ten and the SEC coming to a compromise in some way. Of course, other conference voices matter, but not really when it comes to making a decision. And if you're the SEC, you really don't want to go to 24. If you're the Big Ten, why move off 12 if you're not ultimately getting what you want? So it's possible that issue gets resolved in the next few days here, but I'm skeptical of that happening. And it's why I still believe ultimately we end up with 12 again for 2026.
Not that it's gotten nasty, but it seemed like the relationship between Tony Petitti and Commissioner Greg Sankey got off to a great start and seems to have maybe chilled just a little bit. From your understanding, what is that relationship between the two commissioners?
Well, I think it chilled because of SEC spring meetings, right? There was a lot of momentum heading into those meetings back in, was it late May, I guess, where both conferences had done these, kind of historic joint meetings, one in Nashville, which I attended, one in New Orleans. They felt like the Big Ten, felt like they had gotten the SEC on board with the idea of automatic qualifiers. And so I think they thought heading into those spring meetings, like they were going to come out of it with the SEC being on board and then ultimately going to a 16-team playoff with, 4 or so automatic qualifiers. Instead, as you guys remember, the coaches came out very strongly against it, and the tides turned. And I feel like the relationship is, it's not in a bad place. It just has changed a little bit. I think certainly just because of the power that each one of them possesses, I think the person that Tony Petitti talks to the most is Greg Sankey and vice versa. Those guys are in pretty constant contact, but there's some differencing of opinions, and what Tony might need for the Big Ten is different at times than what Greg needs for the SEC. So I think you've just seen a bit of a splintering of what each side really wants and needs out of a playoff expansion in a way that a year or so ago, it felt like they were more aligned in that area.
Well, for sure, they're going to have to get along because they're the two names, they're the two guys that's going to have to ultimately decide what's going to happen. And I understand because of the time frame and the quick date of January 23rd right around the corner, they might say, okay, hey, let's we can get together in a couple months and kind of try to hammer this out. But let's go ahead for 2026. Have the 12-team playoff again. But ultimately, they're going to have to break bread and they're going to have to agree to something, right?
Eventually. Again, I think it's just like, it's both of these guys have made deals, right? Tony, of course, more from the professional standpoint, working for, Major League Baseball for a while. But, Greg has made plenty of deals. And Greg is in some ways like the ultimate insider. This guy has been, worked his way up the ranks. He's incredibly well versed on every NCAA issue to the point that like other commissioners have almost like begrudgingly complained how smart he is and how good he is at navigating all these different topics. And so just between those guys, eventually you're going to find a deal point in which it makes sense, for each one of them. It'll be interesting to see where that is, because I think what is critical for the Big Ten is they need more high level inventory. And I think that's why they've been pushing this idea of play-in games more and more often. I think Big Ten's a bit top heavy, and that top heavy has been awesome the last couple of years, but they don't have quite the depth that, the SEC does. And I think that's reflected in TV ratings at times. And so I think if they can add more high quality games, especially at the end of the season, to drive more value throughout the season of, there's a playoff race, who's going to get that last spot? I think they view that as something that would raise viewership, would raise interest. It's just hard for me to imagine them moving off of that completely if they're not getting some sort of some sort of concession out of it. The SEC doesn't need that, and the SEC has also been pretty strong in their belief that like, let's just make it no AQs, and we feel like we would do very well in that model. So again, they have different needs right now, and so where is that compromise point? I don't know that they know quite yet.
That is John Talty. You can follow his work at cbssports.com. John, enjoy the game coming up on Monday. It should be a really good one between Indiana and Miami, and we'll catch up with you again very soon.
Sounds good. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. John Talty, he joined us on the Higginbotham Hotline. All of our guests join us on the Higginbotham Hotline. You deserve solutions that are built for you. Higginbotham is your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR services.
Some of the big takeaways, what John Talty just told us. We'll get to it next on Three Man Front.
We are wide open the rest of the way. Love to hear from you. 1-800-239-WJOX, the Courtesy GMC text line, 205-834-9450. If you missed Wimp Sanderson, Mike Rodak, Trey Wallace, John Talty, you can always download the Three Man Front podcast. You can also download the program in which you can listen to every single day off the Jocks app. You can watch us on YouTube, Jocks TV at YouTube. So hit that subscribe button. We appreciate that very much. We told you just a couple days ago with the transfer portal ending tonight at midnight, players have to be in the portal for them to be able to transfer elsewhere, that the feeling was going to be maybe a sitting quarterback somewhere may go into the transfer portal. Reason being, Tennessee still needs a quarterback. Miami needs a quarterback. Well, this morning, about an hour ago, CBS Sports was reporting that Duke was very concerned that Darian Mensah, their quarterback that threw for almost 4,000 yards this year and 34 touchdowns. If you remember, he leaves Tulane, signs a 2-year deal worth around $8 million. That was the reports. So $4 million a season. Well, there's speculation that he could go into the transfer portal. Well, Pete Thamel, just a couple of minutes ago from ESPN, he reported that if quarterback Darian Mensah were to leave Duke, it's the school's understanding that his contract calls for them to have his exclusive NIL rights, and only Duke has the ability to cancel that. So the only way that Mensah could have access to revenue share money is through Duke, unless the school, Duke, were to terminate that contract. As I mentioned, Mensah's in a 2-year deal with Duke in which he's being paid roughly $4 million a year. So the ability for any school to pay him outside of revenue share would be scrutinized and no question would be brought up in a court of law.
Yeah, I don't think do NFL scouts need to see a whole lot more from Darian Mensah? I just wonder what kind of feedback he's getting, because it seems like he's got a pretty good deal there at Duke. But who knows?
Well, and I'm sure, there's some teams that are, we could either match or even increase that $4 million you'd get from Duke. And also, I'm sure they'd float the idea of, come here, win a conference championship, and actually make the playoff. I think that would be the pitch for him is, do you want to go and do this on a bigger stage than what you're doing at Duke, or are you just happy with the payday and putting up the numbers you did?
I'm just curious to see how many of these deals, these side deals outside of revenue share, are going to get approved by the clearinghouse. Because the people reporting that schools are throwing out these deals just to make it look like a better total package, knowing full and well that the NIL portion of the deal is not going to be cleared just to get a guy to commit. Well, number one, that might happen one portal cycle, and then word gets out and everybody starts using it against you. But it's a mess. That's for sure.
Also, Trinidad Chambliss' attorney, Tom Mars, he is telling media that they anticipate maybe as early as today, they'll be filing paperwork in the Mississippi state court system trying to get an injunction where Trinidad Chambliss potentially could get an additional year of eligibility.
Yeah, and you've got Deuce Knight that's already signed with you, so if you're Pete Golding that at least you have one capable, very capable. Well, let's see more of Deuce Knight. I think he has all kinds of potential. But how long does this play out? When do they get an answer? When does Tom Mars say, you know what, I've seen enough. Hey, sorry, Trinidad, we've done all we can?
Well, I think what's going to happen, and just my prediction, not knowing the details of the Mississippi state courts, I got a feeling that they're going to get in front of a judge that they like, and they're going to get an injunction.
Yeah. And then at that point, what does the NCAA do?
Then they'll go to court and try to get that overturned.
Mm-hmm. And then the back and forth continues.
Now, I will say this. Over the course of the last couple of days, there's been a couple of other cases in which the NCAA has won in regards to that situation.
Yeah, I saw some of those cases. They do win some.
They're definitely winning more than they did about a year or two ago. It seems like after the House settlement came down, things kind of opened up a little bit for the NCAA law team.
Yeah. 205-834-9450. Did want to update you on a couple of SEC additions of the portal. Texas transfer running back Christian Clark. He is committed to South Carolina, 105 yards, 1 touchdown in his first career start against Michigan in the bowl game. He's got 3 years left. That's a good ad for Shane Beamer and the Gamecocks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Meanwhile, for Ryan Silverfield at Arkansas, you've got a transfer safety in John House IV out of Middle Tennessee State who is signed with Arkansas. And also earlier today, you had another player from out of the portal. I believe it was Colorado transfer. That's right. Carter Stoutmeyer. He's committed to Arkansas.
Woo pig.
And I saw a West Georgia kid was maybe close to or committing to Arkansas.
It's a new day in Fayetteville.
All right, so this has just been updated moments ago because LSU's got another commitment from Ole Miss. So they're currently at 30. They're still number 1 in the transfer portal. Texas 2, Ole Miss 3, Ohio State 4, thanks to all the players they've grabbed from Alabama. Penn State 5, Oklahoma State, Indiana, Kentucky, Notre Dame, Texas A&M round out the top 10. Auburn comes in at 14. Alabama currently sits at 34.
Well, speaking of Alabama, I got a text. Nick Brooks to Alabama, all caps, Roll Tide. That's a kid from Yale, right?
No, that is the offensive lineman from Texas.
Oh, who's the kid from Yale?
Nico. Something. I don't think the Brooks thing is official yet, though. So, well, keep an eye peeled.
Should we not say anything? Could he change his mind?